The shooting of 2 police officers in Ferguson, Missouri, was a heinous assault that could undermine police reforms, said the U.S. Attorney General. 2 officers were seriously injured early during protests following the resignation of the police chief after a damning report about racial bias. Such violence was repugnant, Attorney General Eric Holder said. The fatal shooting of a black teenager last year in Ferguson sparked protests about the police use of lethal force. Shots were fired on early Thursday morning from about 125 yards, 114 m, away as a demonstration was breaking up in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson following the resignation of the city's police chief, Tom Jackson. 1 officer was shot in the face and 1 in the shoulder, but both were released from hospital on Thursday. Police have taken 2 men and 1 woman into custody for questioning, but no arrests have been made. Describing the assault, Mr. Holder said, "Such senseless acts of violence threaten the very reforms that nonviolent protesters in Ferguson and around the country have been working towards for the past several months." He later added that the shooting turned his stomach with disgust. President Barack Obama tweeted, "Violence against police is unacceptable," adding, "Path to justice is one all of us must travel together." Several witnesses said the shots had come from a hill on the other side of the street from the crowd of protesters. "We were very close to having what happened in New York last year," Mr. Belmar said in a press conference on Thursday, referring to 2 police officers shot and killed while on duty. He added it was a miracle there were no injuries or deaths given the amount of gunfire he heard in protests last summer and autumn. The St. Louis County Police Chief said after hearing the gunshots many officers had drawn their weapons but no one had fired. The shootings occurred during protests after the announcement that Mr. Jackson would resign. He quit 1 week after a report alleging widespread racial bias in his department and the city's court system. Mr. Jackson was the 6th Ferguson official to be fired or step down. He had initially resisted calls from protesters and some state leaders to resign. He was widely criticized after the shooting of 18-year-old Michael Brown in August and the weeks of demonstrations that followed. Brown's killing was one of several recent cases around the U.S. in which the deaths of black men at the hands of the police have triggered protests. On Thursday, his family said in a statement they rejected any kind of violence directed toward members of law enforcement. "We specifically denounce the actions of stand-alone agitators who unsuccessfully attempt to derail the otherwise peaceful and nonviolent movement that has emerged throughout this nation to confront police brutality," they said through their lawyer Ben Crump.